It's Subverted Tropes, a podcast about movies, featuring your hosts Daniel Spencer and Kate Harlow. Welcome to another episode of Subverted Tropes. I'm Dan.
I'm Kate. And we have with us a delightful team of Jordan and Lindsey, the hosts of the equally delightful Spooky Spouses podcast. Hi, guys.
Hello, everyone.
Hi.
They are also our secret best friends. We hadn't told them yet. Surprise!
What a nice surprise, because it's neither of our birthdays, and we're like waiting for something, like some sort of a surprise or some sort of a day that warrants gift giving, especially specifically getting gifts on our side. So this is really nice.
Yeah, it's a late birthday present for you, early birthday present for me.
Yeah. So thanks so much, you guys.
Hooray.
Certainly. Happy early birthday, happy late birthday.
Thank you.
And it's nice because no one's ever said that to both of us at the same time.
First.
I'm so excited to be the first.
You've done it. You both have done it. You both get a very good grade, and you both have done it.
Yes.
We never
first
get good
grade
grades.
I've ever gotten.
Best friends forever. What movie did you pick for us, and what made you want to pick it?
We picked the movie Mazes and Monsters, starring a very young and a very clean-shaven Thomas Hanks. And I believe Linz was the one who found it, because originally I wanted to do The Dark Crystal, and Linz was like, we've seen it 400,000 times.
We wanted to pick something that we felt like we haven't seen and nobody else in the world has ever seen either.
Yeah, because I'd never even heard of this movie ever, and recently we went on like a Tom Hanks deep dive where it was all old Tom Hanks movies, Splash, Money Pit, what was the one, Joe versus Volcano, The Burbs, and
Man
everything.
with the Red Shoe.
And we, I guess, missed this one because I think Hollywood, or maybe Tom Hanks, or maybe the guy in the movie who wears all the hats, has been trying to hide this movie from the public since its inception.
Yes.
Because it's not good.
But it is.
This is the thing. But it's good. But it's not good at all.
So when I told my dad that we were going to be doing this episode, because he's the one who got me into Dungeons and Dragons, and my understanding of this movie is that it involves Dungeons and Dragons, he remembers having seen it, but had forgotten that Timothy J. Hanks was the one who was in it.
And I think, which is really weird for Tom Hanks, he's easy to forget in this movie. Because I don't think anyone does a very good job of acting.
No, I don't think anybody does.
Because Tom Hanks and most of he's one of my favorite actors ever. Since honestly, since he was on an episode of SNL, I think in the late '90s, and it was one of those opening monologues where they walk around the entire set, and the whole gag was that he's just so nice all the time. And there was a big white horse. And the horse, I think it was Jim Brewer or something, had all these bandages. And he's like, don't pet this horse. This horse is terrible. And then Tom Hanks pets the horse. And I thought, that's pretty funny that Tom Hanks just petting that big horse.
That's all it takes.
Yeah, I guess that's all it
to
takes.
Be your favorite.
But yeah, this movie is painfully forgettable.
I am so excited for this movie. Kate, why don't you tell us the research you got done did?
So, funny thing, there's not a lot about it. Because I think, as has been correctly postulated, it's really they've been really trying to bury it. There's, I think out of all of us, I'm the only one that actually had a strong prior knowledge of it.
Did you really?
Yeah. So
congratulations, Kate.
No, it's not that great. Yeah. So no, my brothers were very, very, very big into D&D back in the day, and this came across my pop culture radar. So I saw it back when I was in high school, maybe early college, and it still hadn't aged well and has continued to not age well. Mazes and Monsters was based on the 1981 novel of the same name, Ronna Jaffe's Mazes and Monsters.
Ronna Jaffe, 100%. 100%.
Jaffe's novel was a fictionalized account based on a news story about a student from Michigan State University, who disappeared and theorized was to the disappearance was theorized to be related to a Dungeons and Dragons sessions gone awry. Trigger warning. The real thing was that he had actually gone to, end his life, and we're just not going to go too deep into that. But basically, the news blew up about that. There was a lot of like, oh, this was a role-playing game, got out of hand. The kid had like run away to his aunt and uncle's house, is what happened.
And typically, most like I feel like I'm allowed to say this because we've played D&D and Monster of the Week a few times. I think the worst that can happen that's like directly associated with a role-playing game is that maybe you have too much pop. I think that's about it.
Too
or like
many Pringles.
Too many Pringles. Too much live wire. Too much Baja Blast that you got before you sat down and started playing.
Too much of the Dr. Pepper Red Fusion from 2004.
Mm-hmm.
What is what
Game
is
Fuel?
That?
Oh, did you never have Red Fusion?
No, that sounds like a ship from a sci-fi movie or something.
It probably was, but it was like one of the first in the series of bizarrely colored sodas that was released in the early 2000s. Because there was Red Fusion from Dr. Pepper, which was the best of all of them. There was Live Wire from Mountain Dew, which was orange. Red Fusion, obviously, red. DNL of 7-Up was green. There was Pepsi Blue that was released. Mm-hmm. But yeah, Red Fusion was the best.
I always thought that DNL stood for Do Not Like.
It could have.
Yeah.
I don't think I've had any of those things.
No. I mean, Livewire, sure, but I guess this isn't
I
about...
don't even know what Livewire is.
Have you ever played World of Warcraft?
No.
Then I think that's okay.
Okay. All right. Sounds good.
Yeah, so the apparently MSU has a series of steam tunnels underneath the property that D&D groups would go down into to play. So when this student went missing, the news got out of hand and blew it up in a series of paranoid articles. And Miss Jaffe decided to seize upon this sensationalized story and wrote a book in less than a week because she was afraid that another writer would take the same idea and do it faster.
A week?
Oh.
Yes.
Wow.
That is so quick.
Yes. and it shows.
Yeah.
The book and film highlight a pop culture moment, a moral cultural panic when quote-unquote polite society viewed RPGs as a negative influence on young minds. People believed that the act of immersing yourself in a fantasy world would be a gateway to the occult, Satanism, and ultimately criminal behavior.
Yeah.
Now, there was a movie that I watched a couple Octobers ago that was, I say a movie, it was a short film, it was like 45 minutes, that was another like anti-D&D thing where like they started RPGing. They used RPG as a verb, and that like led someone who got into it into actually joining the occult and literally raising a demon. And it's so what it was based on was serious, but the short itself was very tongue in cheek, kind of like Reefer Madness, of like just making fun of how absurd this is. And that was heartily enjoyable. So I'm very excited for this mess.
I don't want you
Well, I guess one of the most recent takes on how terrible RPGs are is look at the like first 10 minutes of the first season of Stranger Things. They're just playing Dungeons and Dragons, and then all of a sudden, all heck breaks loose. And it's all thanks to those
Meddling kids.
Those little weasels.
Those little nerdy
those
boys.
4 little weasels.
That's a very good point.
It is. It is.
Thank you very much.
I feel like we just ruined your your evening. You're like, oh.
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 Well, great.
Great. Now I don't like that show anymore.
No, the opening bit of Stranger Things was very nostalgic for me. Not because I was, alive in the early 80s because I wasn't. But like the actual miniatures that they're using for D&D are exactly the same miniatures that my dad gave to me.
Oh, nice.
And it's like, oh, I know all of those minis. This is great. I'm a huge nerd.
Yeah, I don't have anything to build onto that.
That might be a good thing, Kate.
I mean, yes and no. I in my family's eyes, I am the least. I don't want to say least nerdy because I have my areas of nerdism, but my nerdism is more comic book and cinema oriented, whereas the two of my brothers did more of the tabletop gaming and such.
The more widely accepted nerdery is your brand of nerdery.
How dare you? The film marks the leading role debut of Tom Hanks. His first ever role was actually a supporting part in the slasher film He Knows You're Alone in 1979. Hanks was just a baby-faced 26-year-old when he was cast in Mazes. Also cast were Wendy Crewson, David Wysocki, and Chris Makepeace. The film follows a group of college students who play a D&D style RPG until one of them suffers a psychotic break, believing he's actually his character.
Well, this sounds phenomenal.
Again, you're getting your hopes so far up.
They are just through the roof right now.
Oh, honey.
And that's the thing, like on paper, this sounds like it could be great. Like this movie has a lot of potential, right? But it's hard to name in which of the areas they fall short, because I believe it's
most of the areas.
The larger whole, I believe, but that's really all I have in terms of like production notes.
Okay.
There's not a lot to be said about it.
All right.
Oh.
Well, shall we watch this movie?
Yeah.
All right, let's watch this movie. And we're back. That was bad. That was not good.
But is it?
Wow.
Was it bad or was it like good?
See,
Because it
No,
was
it was-
bad.
that's the thing that like I was struggling with, because okay, so there's Troll 2, right? There's
Yes.
The Room. There are multiple other movies that are good, bad ones. But this
Yes.
one, I think it's almost so bad to
Yeah.
where it has yet to go full circle. The MC Escher hands drawing themselves to be good again. It just, even on that, it's such a bad movie that it's not even like a good one because it's managed to become such a bad movie. Does that make any sense?
I think
Yeah.
I think it's almost like it could have gone full circle, but then it kept going because there are things that I laughed at, but whoever was working this, whoever was producing it and editing it and putting it together didn't have the cognizance to say, like, if I put a 2-second pause in here, there could be laughter and it could be taken as amusing. It could be full circle funny, but they didn't. They just kept moving. So, like, it went full circle to the point where, like, yeah, there's things to laugh at, and then it just kept going and doubled down on the bad.
Yeah, for sure.
So one of the most distracting things to me for this movie, and there were a lot, of like, this is just distractingly bad, but the music in this movie, I started taking notes of how many times I said, what the fuck with this music? And there were at least 6 times that I was just like, this does not fit the scene at all. Like, this doesn't work. What are they doing?
Yeah, I mean, even the opening credits, right? Ba-da-da-da-da-da, or whatever that love song that we want. Like, there was something online that we saw that equated it that also could have been music that's played over the Adopt a Dog commercials,
like
right?
the slow motion photos.
Yeah,
of the
like
dogs.
slow motion
Yeah.
crying dog, crying cats, crying iguana, whatever else. Yeah, there were a lot of times, and what was it with the music when they're playing D&D is like very, very bad keyboard harp or even keyboard lute sound effects.
Yeah. Like Alan Parsons Project had just like quit halfway through writing a song.
Or it was, bring your kid to work day. And the Alan Parsons Project were like, well, our kids.
Let's just let them rock out.
Let's just let them try. And then they only used, everyone was recording, but then they only used keyboard harp because it was mediocre at best.
The pint-sized Parsons Project.
Hey, now Kate, that is a very good name for a band and also a very good idea.
Yes. I mean, I can play bass if we need a, bassist. Who's got keys?
Not me. Linz?
I don't know how to play them. I'll do it though.
Okay.
Perfect.
Good answer.
I will do I'll do bass as well, but not plugged in. And I will stand pretty far back, almost to where, people are like, is that someone else? Oh, I don't think so.
Ooh, add that little touch of mystery. That's perfect. Mm-hmm. That's perfect.
Mm-hmm.
Kate, are you comfortable playing guitar, drums, and singing at the same time?
No, but I was going to offer to hold a tambourine, but not hit it.
Oh, see that now that's cool.
See, that'll
That's good. That's good.
That'll really get the essence of the music from this film. I feel it already.
Now, Daniel, when you mentioned one of the things that you found distracting, I thought immediately you were going to go to JJ's hats.
So I can't. The problem that I have with JJ's hats is not one that I think I can articulate well, because there's just so much nonsense to it.
Can I interject one thing
Please
while you try to
do.
articulate?
Please.
He started out taking notes and then not terribly far in, like maybe 25 minutes in, gave up taking notes on the things that he was finding distracting and frustrating.
Because his hand was too tired because there was just too much.
That's how that note-taking process happened.
That's 100% the case. My hand was cramping up, and I was like, I can't watch this movie anymore because I'm crying because my hand hurts from writing so much about the stuff that I find distracting, like JJ, and is constantly changing completely, there's no explanation with his hats. So the point, I can't, it just doesn't make sense.
Well, and the thing about the hats, too, is that they are so completely irrelevant. But when they were making the movie, it seemed like they wanted them to we got to have the hats, though. And they're like,
But they're not different hats all the time, though. Because he only has 8 different hats, but he changes his hat 14 times.
Yeah.
So he reuses hats.
And then what was
Hold.
at the second scene where it was like the other Halloween party? Then he
doesn't have a hat on.
He's not wearing a hat.
Like, you would wear a hat to a Halloween party. Like, you don't dress up like Amelia Earhart normally, and then at Halloween you don't.
Yeah, you don't wear a big baby blue cowboy hat every day of the week except for Halloween. Yeah, and then I also don't think that then maybe.
Do.
Well, and that's okay, and that's one of the reasons why I celebrate you. But I think that. JJ, maybe that was like their way of saying, well, this kid's in Edmonton. Because wasn't it like JJ was like 16 or something and going to college?
Yeah, he was a kid genius.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's right. And he's so smart because he wears those hats.
Maybe you have to start wearing more hats to be smart. Like, maybe people take you more serious.
Maybe he's hiding a very large head.
Or
full of big brains.
Or a 5
Like
head.
that Star Trek alien who's got the big old veiny brain head.
Oh, yeah. Wasn't his name just like Brain Guy?
Head.
What was his name? I never watched Star Trek.
Yeah, it was Brain Guy, I think.
Brain Guy.
That fits.
Brain Guy, wrinkle face, old man.
So I do want to backtrack. Lindsay.
Yes.
You shared the number of hats and the number of times that the hats were changed.
Yeah, I took notes.
Did you count? Did you keep track of this?
Well, I tried. That was the notes that I wrote down when I watched the movie. And I'm pretty sure he had 8 different hats and he changes it 14 times. Yeah, my notes
You are my
the
hero.
Interesting notes.
My only notes that I have, JJ's bird. And then JJ's mom redecorates nonstop.
I have some quotes from some people. Like the lieutenant. He actually says, Mazes and Monsters is a far-out game. Swords, poison, spells, battles, maiming, killing? These are the kind of notes that I take.
So I will actually be right back like a fool. I didn't actually grab my notes. Give me 2 seconds.
Bye, Dan.
Bye, everybody.
I guess that'll do it.
Well, thanks for joining us, guys.
I think I scared him off when I said maiming.
Well, oh yeah.
He got nervous.
Dan did send us a list of trigger words, and naming was one of them. The other one,
He
since
startles
Dan is not-
easily.
What was that, Kate?
He startles easily.
Poor guy. Well, the other ones that we're not allowed to say are kick, flip, and skateboard. Here he comes.
Ah! All right, so yeah, my notes were 2 seconds in, and I'm loving this.
That didn't last.
And then 3 seconds
so-
in, I'm hating this.
Pretty much. JJ's mom called him a fresh kid,
Oh yeah, right.
so I wrote, quote, fresh kid, and underlined fresh because I found that particular piece very funny. What's with the hats?
Yeah, and does he really make mention of it? Does he say, "Oh, well, these are my learning hats. These are my
At
college
no
hats"?
point are the hats ever, like, the only time that it's actually acknowledged is at the very beginning when he walks in and his mother touches the spike on the top of his frickin'
German helmet.
German helmet. Conquistador. No, it's not quite a conquistador helmet, but anyway, crazy hat.
Well, and the doorman at the building says nice hat.
Oh.
Because he is fishing for a tip.
Yes, well,
Wouldn't that be great if the doorman was wearing the exact same hat, just smaller than
my
JJ's
goodness.
hat? Nice hat. Oh, hey, you too, bud.
tiny, tiny little spiked German helmet under his doorman's cap.
Oh yeah, and he
would
lifts
be
it up.
incredible.
Nice hat, wink. And then
Nice hat.
there's
Yes.
an Easter egg where you can, once that happens, you hit play, pause, stop, fast forward, and then you follow the story of the doorman and how him and JJ came to be special hat buds.
I think
Oh, man.
I think there needs to be a whole movie about JJ because he like has this weird hat thing. His mom is like totally wacky.
Yeah, so they're
she's off her rocker.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
they're apparently living in New York City,
Right.
correct?
Mm-hmm.
And they have this humongous property. And every time he comes home, his room is redecorated. The first time it looks like some sort of a highfalutin murder room or a doctor's office, perhaps. And then the next, I forget what the next one was. Like he liked one of them, didn't he?
The last one.
He liked the one that was set up like Casablanca.
That's
so
right.
it was
Oh, yeah.
like looking all jungly and had like the actors' chairs for like Humphrey Bogart and Ingrid Bergman and Peter Lorre were the three that I could see.
Perfect.
Yeah.
And I don't know anything about most movies, so I agree. I agree a
I
lot.
kind of liked the like highfalutin murder room.
Yeah, right? It's like if you spill something, no big whoops. You just clean it up really quick.
Bleach everything.
Bleach. Perfect. Yeah, except don't bleach your
Your
bird.
friends won't want to stay the night.
Yeah, which gives you,
won't
more
have to
alone
be,
time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you'll just be alone a lot. How nice is
Kate,
that?
I'm a little bit afraid of our new friends, of our new surprise best friends.
Well, the best way to get to know somebody is ask them their opinions on a highfalutin murder room.
Right. Just jump right in.
We are pro that room.
Okay. New best friends. I'm a little bit afraid of Kate now as well.
I feel like
Why?
something that I thought was disturbing about the movie is you don't really know what year it takes place in.
Oh yeah, this is yeah.
So I put down like they drive by a cinema in which they're playing The Empire Strikes Back, which I'm sorry, but I'm not a huge Star Wars person. So what that was 80,
That puts you
81?
at 1980 or 1981.
There we
Okay.
go.
And then he's having a Brigitte Bardot party and they give him a bottle of wine, which is 1987.
Right.
And then later on in the film, there is Kate's calendar hanging up in her dorm room, and it's 1983. So it's like, what year is this? It only took a week to film it, so like you couldn't decide on a year?
Well, we've all been there, right? After a long campaign of Dungeons and Dragons, or Mazes and Monsters, or Tunnels and Terribles.
Turtles.
Tunnels and Turtles. you're just been rolling nat 1, right? And then you get up from the table and you're like, what year is it even?
Oh, it's a
right? We've all
metaphor.
been there. Is it 81, 87, 83? Am I 16 and drinking wine in college? Yeah, I guess I am.
Do I have a mina bird for no real reason that adds nothing to the story except for setting up for one joke that then kind of pays off a little bit well?
And does my bird have the voice of a human man? Yeah, it for sure does.
Oh, yes.
But do we ever get into how my bird got the voice of a human man? Because I feel like there's a lot more to that story.
I'm pretty certain that that bird ate JJ's father.
Oh, yeah, you never see his dad, huh?
No.
No, but as soon as y'all brought up their hat connection, I'm pretty sure the doorman is JJ's father.
Oh.
Oh, well, this is good.
Oh.
Now we know.
See, I feel
That's right.
We have to remake this movie, and it has to be just about JJ.
Yeah, I think so, because he's arguably the most interesting character. He's a boy genius. He's a fresh kid, quote unquote. His mom is some super rich interior designer. He has a bird with a man voice. He wears all these hats. He knows at least a little bit about wine at 16, enough to check the year of the bottle of wine. Or sorry, the vintage.
He also has some issues with suicidal ideation when he goes into the caves to be like, oh, I want to make my suicide like a big thing.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And that's when he first finds the caves. He's like, well, I can't just kill myself. I have to make it so that it's going to make, headlines.
Also, who's going to take care of my bird?
Right.
Not his mom.
Which, yeah, not his mom. She's too far away.
She's and she's busy. Hey,
right.
Doing rooms.
She can't call off work for that bird.
Right. And then there's, his friends, one of whom is busy doing school stuff. The other two are busy doinking. It's like he's just got no one to take care of this poor bird.
No. And I do love that scene in the movie when they're getting close and they're playing the romantic music from the beginning again, and they both whisper simultaneously, "Let's doink." And then they say, "Jinx, joke. You owe me a Coke." And they say, "No, but seriously, let's doink. Let's doink."
That was very romantic.
It was. It was a special scene. Lindsay and I cried uncontrollably. We had to pause the movie. We were sobbing. It was so sad, but powerful.
That was very powerful.
Very. Just moving. And I think I'm going to work that into our wedding vows.
Oh, well,
Please do.
That's really special. Now, what about the other character in the movie who is the least interesting, but I don't know. I mean, I guess still a little bit interesting. I forget his name, but the blonde hair buddy who
The handsome blonde friend.
yeah, handsome blonde
Doesn't he
friend.
steal her heart with saying something from Star Trek or something?
Yeah, he says something about Spock or something, or Worf, or sorry.
He always thought he was Spock because he didn't have emotions, and then she says, "No, you have the most emotions." And I can tell you, his name was Daniel because her name is Kate. And at the beginning, I spoiled it for this one by accident by telling him that they later doinked.
Because I'm like, oh, it's funny. There's a Daniel and a Kate here in this movie. Oh. And Kate was like, oh, just wait. They're going to go to Doinksville.
How fun.
Population 2, but soon 3.
But that's when we had to pause because he was sobbing uncontrollably because I ruined it.
I was so sad that she had spoiled this movie I was incredibly invested in.
There was the whole thing, right, where in the opening scenes, in the establishing scenes, which, I mean, I guess these young college kids have huge goals because, Kate was like, well, I'm working on a novel or something, and then Daniel was like trying to repress these feelings of wanting to make video games, and his parents were like, there's no money in that. No son of ours is going to be a nerd and make a lot of money designing video games.
Yeah, that's the worst. That's the worst thing to say to your child. Because it's like, yeah, if you know how to make a video game and you want to do it, go ahead.
Yeah, go do it, please.
Because I want
right
to be
now.
put in the best nursing home possible when I'm old. Do it up.
I like the whole those establishing scenes were so important to the rest of the movie because we never really saw any of those parents again, with the exception of Tom Hanks's inexplicably alcoholic mother.
Yes.
True.
Who's like, okay, she's got a drinking problem. Why did this get brought up? It was just like, all right, we need to give our character some depth. Let's go to the Rolodex of random problems. Oh, she's an alcoholic.
I really think just because it was so an anti-D&D movie, they just wanted to bring in anything addictive, like anything drug-related, anything alcohol-related, anything like suicide-related, because they wanted to make it seem like, oh my gosh, if you play D&D, all these bad things will happen to you.
Yeah, fashion-related in terms of collecting headwear. Yeah, all these terrible, terrible problems.
Romantic decisions, like hooking up with Tom Hanks when he's got that crazy hair going on.
Yeah, seriously. And then, isn't it always... So maybe this is not necessarily a trope, but maybe a cliche where it's like the first scene of intimacy between two characters, and then at that moment, one of the characters thinks, you know what? This is the perfect time to just unload a lot of baggage really quick. And then that's when Tom Hanks says that, my brother's gone. We think he did something at the Twin Towers or something, and he's just out of here now, but we can kiss.
Yeah.
In fairness, that's what I do on every first date, and it worked with this one.
It's true.
So-
It's true. One of the first things she said to me was, I'm not good at peopling. And then one of the last things she said to me that night was, I'd kind of like to kiss your face.
It worked out for me.
Yeah, I mean, that's true.
That's perfect.
Well, it's direct, which is great.
Right.
It's honest, which is also great.
When I said I'm not good at peopling, I was also struggling to sit in the chair.
Yes.
So
She followed that up by saying, let me qualify that. I'm just not good at sitting like a human. And then tucked her
And then
leg
you found
under
out
her
she was
other
not
leg.
Human.
That is correct.
But you
She
guys
was
have-
wearing
you
a
worked
hat
out
that had
it.
cat ears on it, so she was a cat.
And then when you guys went to dinner, you sat, but then Kate stood at the opposite end of the table. And then that was it. And you knew from then.
and then I slowly pushed everything off of the table
Yep.
while maintaining eye contact.
It was intense, but that was when I knew. She was the one. The way that they play mazes and monsters in this is a little bit crazy to me as someone who plays a good amount of D&D, because they sit around a table in a room surrounded by thousands of candles.
Yeah.
But it doesn't look like any other source of light except for thousands of candles. They've got binders full of information, but we never see any dice. We never see them like attempt. They just say, well, this is what I'm going to do. And then they just do it and maybe die.
Yeah. I think a lot of the problems could have been solved in this movie if they just would have totally woofed a roll.
Right? Like, no one rolled a 1. And like, well, I guess maybe Tom Hanks rolled a 1 on sanity for his character.
Yeah.
And he lost his marbles a bit.
Critical miss on your brain. How's your brain, Tom? Critical. It's my brain right now is in critical condition because I love this game so much.
Oh, man.
Wait, but then,
Yeah.
but like what I want to know, because there's 1,000 candles in a dorm room, and they're all living in single dorms, right? When I was an undergrad, I was in a single dorm, and it was no bigger than like a modest single user bathroom. And the fact that they're all sitting around a table in the center, mind blowing. Also, where is their RA? And there's like 1,000 candles in this room. That like there has to be so much light emanating from the bottom of that door. Also, you can probably smell, because I doubt who's going to go out and buy 1,000 unscented candles unless you're some sort of a amount or like an alien
Probably
posing
hot
as a
in
human.
there, too.
It's probably super hot.
Like, they should show them in their underwear just, like, pouring sweat.
Do you guys want to even play anymore? Well, not really.
It took us 45 minutes to set up the candles.
Can you just turn on a black light? We are in college. No, I have 1,000 candles I could light.
Okay, but can we turn on a fan at least? No, that's going to put out the candles, man.
And then it's going to blow my binder all over the place, and I need to know the rules. And I wrote down this very elaborate story. My name is Daniel. And it'll mess up Daniel's do. Because Daniel did have really good hair throughout the entire movie.
He did.
Yes.
He did.
Yeah.
He was a very, structurally sound looking individual. That's a weird way to phrase that.
It is. I
I'm gonna
like
stick
it.
with it, though. It works. Structurally sound.
That's also what I have is the number one way to tell you're being hit on by an alien who's posing as a human. As in, they tell you that you are a structurally sound human being. Uh-oh, Daniel. He's sliding away. He's hiding behind Kate.
He's leaving now.
He's leaving.
He's eating my spine. Yeah, another thing about the Where's Their RA is that Tom Hanks gets a double bed or a full bed for his room and suggests that he and Kate can move in together
Yeah.
in their dorm room.
Yeah, and that's not very romantic. Like, hey, I know we live in the same building, but you want to live in my room?
Yeah, and my room's very small, and the hamper is right by the head of my bed, and you're gonna smell all of our dirty clothes. But again, it's a single dorm room. Do you want to?
That's romantic.
I think it is.
It's
romantic.
very romantic. We've got not a lot of room in this bed, so that we'll probably have to stack on top of each other to sleep comfortably. But it's all going to be fine because we've got 2 people's worth of stuff crammed into this tiny room, and that's what's really romantic.
Yeah, that's my favorite thing.
And that's what's neat too, and that's why Linz and I haven't gone grocery shopping in 4.5 months, because it's the absence of something makes you want it even more, right? So the absence of space in your dorm room makes you think about how cool an open living environment is, and that's just nice to think about. So we've been thinking about food for 4.5 months, and that's just a cool thought experiment.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think we should try that. We should try the absence of food to make us appreciate food.
But here's the thing.
Yes.
I already super appreciate food. Can we try the absence of something else?
Let's try the absence of food.
How about the absence of dirty laundry?
Oh, that works too.
Oh, that's cool. Now that's great.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's constructive.
So, okay, then what about, aside from the dorm room and how it's terrible in any of the situations, aside from the implied doinkus that happens, now what about JJ goes out of his way to get the gang back together, essentially, and starts the whole new campaign, because wasn't it his character died or someone's character died? So
Yeah.
then
Oh yeah, his character kicked it.
that's right.
Yes, he died on purpose so that he could kill the game and start a new one where he was the maze controller.
That's right.
So
Basically, he's just, I'm bored and I want to DM, so I'm going to die and then throw a hissy fit to start a new game.
So his guilt fueled arguably one of the best games of Mazes and Monsters in history.
Yeah, his guilt led to the first LARP probably that ever happened.
At least according to the movie plot, the first LARP ever.
Yeah, and I think the acronym they used was FLARP, the first live-action roleplay.
Guys, let's go to the caverns and flarp like no one has ever flarped before.
You haven't? Let me show you how to flarp.
Watch. Here I go. I'm about to flarp. And then it's just 10 minutes of JJ, doing the thing where, you stand in one place and you're talking as JJ, and then you move across, and then you talk as the other person, and you, walk all over the place, right, for 10 to 20 minutes. That's I'm flarping right now. Watch. Here I go.
I appreciate
You really shouldn't
JJ
flarp
a
in
lot.
public.
I also appreciate
Well, because
JJ.
think about it. Those caverns were creepy.
Yeah.
And he went there by himself and, set things up.
Yeah, and he's, 10
And he had to
years
borrow
old.
a skeleton.
Yeah, that's the thing, too,
He
that
needed
just
that skeleton.
completely happened. He went to some bio professor or some, I don't know, biological anthropology professor or something, and just said, "Can I please borrow this human skeleton?" And he went, "Okay, well, convince me. Oh, I'm going to be flarping."
I thought something was going to happen to the skeleton, but, nothing. It never came back to that.
Yeah. It was just, wasn't it just
It was an unnecessary scene, which
Yeah.
kind of was the whole movie.
a series of
Yes.
unnecessary scenes starring Tom Hanks?
And it was also, it wasn't just, I want to borrow this so that I can go flarp. It was, I want to borrow this so that I can go flarp in a place that is clearly stated as being off limits to students.
Yeah.
And I've told you that that is exactly where we're going. So let me borrow school property to go to a place where I'll get expelled if I go. Thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead, take it.
All yours. You can take this very expensive human skeleton to a very dangerous cavern.
That professor clearly had tenure.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's like, well, they're not firing me. I wrote a book. You can borrow my man skeleton.
Flarp hard.
Flarp hard, JJ. And then JJ said, please don't ever say that to me again. And then he left. And they went to the caverns. Now, if I was part of a group or a campaign that at least took place in a super creepy location, caverns, I don't know, even just like going down to like someone's unfinished old basement, I mean, that would be super cool. I would love it. IRL.
Yes. Mm-hmm. I would be all in favor of it. I did once try playing some D&D in the woods at a nearby disc golf park.
Congrats.
It was a mess.
Oh, yeah.
It was an absolute disaster for several reasons. Mainly, it was the first time I ever tried to DM, and I did not know what I was doing. But also, like, the party didn't really care that much about what they were doing, and they found this substance that if they took it would give them, like, we had to roll on the insanity chart to figure out how they went insane. It was a mess. And then also it was very, like, there was pine straw everywhere and dirt everywhere, and it was one of the worst experiences of D&D that I've ever had.
But you didn't say the worst.
I did not say the worst. No, it was not the worst experience of D&D I ever had.
That was the one that you were telling us before we recorded where you played inside the belly of a whale.
Yes, indeed. I went full Jabu Jabu and got into that whale, played some D&D, and a random bubble came up and, like, killed me. It was messed up.
Well, it is sad, but you're the nicest ghost that we know, so thank you for being here and being a ghost.
Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate
Oh, sure.
you. Or I really appreciate you.
That was a very good joke, Daniel.
Oh, thank you.
I'm always into spooky replies. Sort of my thing.
Man, if I had $4,000 for every time I heard someone say that, I would have $4,000.
Be worth it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I would take that.
Yeah.
I would take that.
So how many movies have you guys seen where the beginning of the movie is quite literally a copied and pasted scene from inside of the movie?
Not including this one, I'm going to go with Bagels.
Yeah.
No, I feel like that's a thing that definitely has happened in other movies. I don't know that it's anything that we have covered specifically, but I think it is a common... Trope isn't the right word, but I think it is a common, overwhelmingly lazy editing technique.
Yeah.
That happens in stories that don't have much substance.
If we're going with movies that we haven't covered on this podcast, then I literally watched one last night that was
also true.
Had some copy paste biz nasty in it.
But that's the thing, like, it's essentially almost like it's what is it, like directly after like one of the most intense parts of the movie, right? Mm-hmm. When nobody can find anybody, or what is like Robbie's gone or something. I forget exactly like what part is the beginning of the movie, which is the middle of the movie.
Right. So so Robbie is missing, and the rumor has already spread that it's due to playing Mazes and Monsters.
That's right.
Right.
Yeah.
Which is a far out game.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it is a very far out game. A bunch of fresh kids play it.
So another thing, and I know you've got notes, but like
I'm trying to analyze them and see if they are worth cutting over any of this conversation, and they're really not.
Fair enough. So there's a scene where Robbie is in New York, and he thinks he's his character, whose name is like...
It's something like Bardot or like Bardou or something
Bardou.
like that. Yeah.
Mordu. No.
Purdue.
Purdue
Par.
University.
Yes,
Yes.
Purdue University. So he's in New York and thinks that he's Purdue University and gets mugged by a couple of people, but he pulls out a knife and stabs one.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And then they just don't, like, there's no repercussions for it.
Yeah, I just got stabbed.
It's not like we found this dead guy here who is, like, we just gloss over the fact that he killed someone.
Wouldn't that
NBD.
Wouldn't that be neat if the cops who found him went, okay, I'll take it from here, and then like one specific officer sent the other ones away, and then he rolled, and he was like, oh, good, healing. Now I can officially heal him, because he was a cleric in the regal world as well. Healed the guy.
He cast Save the Dying.
Yeah,
Spare the Dying.
and then went
yeah.
and cut off Tom Hanks's head.
That would be a much more satisfying ending to this movie.
Because nothing really says, like, I mean, Tom Hanks wasn't really being like a cool dude for the majority of the movie. So
He was
no.
not being fresh at all.
No, not even close.
No.
He was being rude and careless. And he was just walking around New York with like almost like a Ninja Turtles weapon, and then stabs a human being, and then okay.
Well,
I
what
guess
do you say? He only uses his sword when his magic fails him.
Yeah, when his spells fail him. And he had a bag of spells, but we never really got to see
Yeah.
what those spells were.
I think they were just words written on paper.
They were just Scrabble letters, and he would just pull one out, and if he didn't get like a good letter, he would just stab someone.
Yeah, I'm stuck with.
What am I
Yes.
supposed to do with a Q?
I have 2 Q's and 9 S's. Oh, it didn't work.
This
Skiz. No, nothing there too. And then he did and then he was like, let me try bananagrams. Nope, nothing there either. Let me try upwards. Same thing as Scrabble, just they go up. Nothing there. Nothing there. I'm a very bad stab.
Oh, man.
I also am a very bad stab.
Yes. Can confirm. You tried to stab me like 3 times.
Name any 3 of those times.
2 days ago.
Context.
We were having an argument about who should drive to the restaurant we were going to for lunch, and you stabbed me and said, "Oh, you're bleeding. I guess you have to drive."
False?
Well, her magic didn't work.
Oh yeah, Kate's magic failed her, and she's like, "Well,
I threw a bunch of Scrabble tiles at him, and it didn't make him want to drive, so then I stabbed him into it.
That's
Yeah.
it. That's it.
It's the best way to get people to do what you want.
I like that thing. Instead of like talking someone into doing something, you can stab them into doing something."
Yeah. Which unfortunately is kind of a real life thing. So
Yeah, be careful. You can get stabbed in doing whatever somebody wants.
That's a very good point.
So I don't know. I'm going to take a wild guess and say that you guys have seen the cover for the DVD that features not at all same era photo of Tom Hanks.
No.
I didn't notice that.
You haven't? Oh my gosh.
Like I've seen the cover,
So-
but I didn't realize.
So the current DVD cover, if you just happen to Google it or pull it up on Amazon, the original one is like an artist rendering of the 4 main characters in the garb of their characters. When it was re-released on DVD, they took a photo of America's dad, Tom Hanks, and superimposed it over like a castle.
Oh, yeah. Oh, you're absolutely right.
Oh yeah, that has nothing to do with the movie though.
So you can buy it right now from Barnes & Noble, but I'm surprised that they're asking $1.99. That seems steep.
That does seem very steep. This is such a welcome surprise when you guys picked this movie that it is free on Amazon Prime.
Yeah.
Like a lot of the movies that people have picked for us recently has been like, oh, we need to drop like $3-4 for a rental to watch this movie. It's not a big deal, but like it adds up over time. And this was like, oh, great, this is free. And I still feel like we didn't get our money's worth.
Yeah, right. I was like, what's the Amazon guy? Bezos?
Yes.
I'm waiting for an email from Bezos. It's like, oh, thank God. Thanks for watching this movie. Here's a $100 gift card to Amazon.
There's only 2 accounts have ever seen this movie.
And I'm not one of them. I'm Jeff Bezos, and I handpick every single movie that goes on Amazon because I love them so much, except for this one because I lost a bet.
Right.
I personally would like a gift card from Tom Hanks.
Yeah. Do you think... I'm going to rephrase that. How much guilt do you think Tom Hanks feels? Maybe guilt's the wrong word.
For wasting people's time.
For just wasting people's time. He was not Captain Ron. That's not the movie. Isn't that the He was the one captain. He was the one ship captain recently.
Captain Phillips?
Yeah.
Captain Phillips.
That was the pilot.
No, that was
That was Sully. That was Captain Sully.
Captain Sully.
Man, he's been so many captains.
He's been a lot of captains. He was the main character in Big. He was Forrest James Gump, and he's played so many important roles in so many wonderful movies that he did this one. And I wonder if he still thinks about it, or if he's just done so much where he's like, oh yeah, that weird thing.
I feel like he probably thinks about it and starts crying, but then dabs the tears away with his fat stacks of cash and doesn't feel as bad about it anymore.
Yeah, you're probably right. Man, if I had 1/100th of the amount of money that Tom Hanks has, I would have done. I would do this movie live action, like on off Broadway in Madison, Ohio, in the middle of nowhere, Ohio, for I don't know 2 years in a row. I would do it every single day, 5 shows a day. I'd do it.
Bring this back to Broadway. Mazes and Monsters on Broadway.
Do you think that'd be
oh my God,
very good or very bad?
I don't know. It could be like the next hipster thing.
Oh,
it could be.
Like, I'm
It
surprised.
depends on who's producing it. If Lin-Manuel gets on board, I will see it 1,000 times.
I'm just saying, if there's not a song called Fresh Kid, then they're doing it wrong.
But the love ballad, Doinktown, USA, really beautiful.
Yeah, and then there's the really upsetting 30-minute scene in the Broadway thing where it's full nude, but there's no doinking. They're just singing. They're just like singing at the top. It's very loud for 30 minutes, and they're just singing about they're professing their love, and then they're talking about like other stuff like, I'm also into like this character, and I've been thinking about playing as this character, but I'm not sure. But yeah, full nude, just really hard to watch.
Let me tell you about my missing brother.
I feel like you guys are forgetting the best worst character, the most underestimated character in this whole movie is that green monster. That is like clearly just a man wearing a really bad monster suit.
Yeah, it wasn't a good costume.
He's a
It was a very bad costume.
Mm-hmm.
and he shows up a couple times. And it's like
doesn't he?
I thought he was going to be like a big part of it, and he wasn't.
No, because he just existed in Tom Hanks's head. And
Right.
And maybe the like production value on that creature is a metaphor for how creative in the movie Tom Hanks's brain is. He can only imagine a poorly designed creature.
Poor movie quality creature.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The creature's beyond your wildest imagination. And then Tom Hanks imagines it. He's like, oh, it's not really that scary. He's like made out of plastic, and I'm not that scared of it.
I guess my wildest imagination is pretty tame.
Huh. Maybe I gotta get
Do you
into something else.
suppose that Tom Hanks has ever tried to convince somebody that this was just a very elaborate SNL sketch?
He very well could have.
It could have been.
I would hope so.
Well, wasn't it, speaking of SNL, as on TV, this movie was made for TV, right?
Oh, yes.
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah, so, I mean, that's one on the side of, I would believe Tom Hanks. I go, oh yeah, you're such an incredible actor, you do so many good things, and you're so nice. You're very funny on Twitter, actually. I believe you. I would just believe him right away.
It's one thing that I guess is another distracting thing for me is they build up his missing brother so much with like his name is Hall and he's gonna go to the Great Hall And like, okay, great, he's gonna go find his brother. It's gonna be like this amazing thing. It's gonna be like super hokey, but like, yeah, they're gonna give some resolution to this. Nope, nothing. He's gonna go to New York. He's gonna go visit the World Trade Center, which is, weird nowadays.
Pretty wacky to see inside the Trade Center.
Yeah, right. Like parts
people
were
just
actually
running
filmed in there.
around and running through doors without any sort of security clearance.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and the one thing that I think is funny, like in movie fiction, that so he's in college, so between 18 to 21 or whatever, that some very young, very, very young adult, some pre-adult, could very easily make their way to the roof, to the very top of this one, just like, well, what am I having sort of a free day in New York City? I'll go to the roof of the World Trade Center by myself, and I don't think there'll be a problem at all.
No one's going to bat an eye. That's fine. Mm-hmm. It's cool.
Yeah.
And then the other kids go up there. Was JJ wearing a hat when they went to find him?
I think so. I think he was wearing the aviator hat and goggles.
It was something very close to his head.
His adventure hat.
Oh,
Yeah.
That's
because they
right.
were going up in the... Oh, that's creepy. They were going up in the World Trade Center and he was wearing his aviator stuff.
That's intense.
Weird.
That
Maybe
is
they
weird.
Maybe this movie was just a prediction.
Do you think it was?
No.
Okay.
I think my absolute favorite moment of this movie, though, was when the girl whose name I can't... Oh, it was Kate.
Kate.
Of course. I could remember her name the entire time. So Kate was... They were talking, and like the camera zoomed in on her as she was saying, "The most frightening monsters are the ones that exist in our own minds."
Right.
Yeah.
Which was like, again, nothing that they really returned to resolve in any sort of way. Which is like, they very easily could have like gone to that with like, okay, well, Tom Hanks is, gone to the monsters in his mind. We can, like, we acknowledge that and we can do something about it. No, it's just like, we're gonna go ahead and say creativity is a terrible thing and D&D makes you creative, so burn it to the ground.
Yeah.
Basically.
And then they quite literally accept that 100,000% because they go to his home and then they really, really, really LARP with him.
Yeah, they're like, let's play one last time because there's no use of helping you. You just are what you are.
So, and that also means that they were going to play one last game of, a 75% fake game, 25% real game, because Tom Hanks was convinced he was living in the actual Mazes and Monsters, that they were going to play one last game. That either means they were going to play with him once and then leave and never go back, which is rude. Or, but then again, they're young and apathetic. Or they're going to play with him and murder him as soon as they were done. Now they were playing next to a big pond, so I mean that's one place.
Going to be one of those sympathy things, like, well, he's never going to get better, so we might as well just go ahead and, let Lenny him.
It was the unspoken agreement when his alcoholic mother said, "I forgive all of you," or like, "I don't blame all of you."
I don't blame you. It's not your fault. Don't do this, man. It's not your fault.
Or maybe because Tom Hanks was so invested in the game, in fiction, they'd be like, "Oh, your character died." And he would be like, "Oh, you're right. I think I'll just lay here." And then he laid there, and then just laid there completely alive and just waited to die for maybe a couple weeks. But just laid there, and then like there's a few shots where it's just Tom just sitting there smiling and laying on the ground. It's like 1 week later. And then it's Tom still smiling, but looks pretty bad. And one even longer week later, and then it's Tom, and there's he's
decomposing.
He's decomposing,
but he's still alive.
He's just
laying there.
Yep.
Oh man, I feel like that would have made the movie almost a little better.
Well, it would have been
a little bit
very funny.
There would have been closure.
Well, and I wouldn't put it past the people who made this movie to be like, look, you'll convince yourself that you have to lay there and just die. Because Dungeons & Dragons is the world's worst game ever created. It's dangerous.
Now, do you think they called it Mazes and Monsters just for like lawsuit reasons?
Oh, 1,000%, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, you definitely.
Yeah.
But there was still alliteration, which was nice.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
It's like Tunnels and Turtles.
Tunnels and Turtles. Like Tunnels and Turtles. Are there any other good ones that we can...
Passages and Possums.
That's pretty good. Yeah, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
Crips and Crawlies. Nah?
Ooh.
Sure.
Sounds like a gang name.
Bathrooms and Brothers.
Bathrooms and Brothers is good. And my brother Brad and I played that game a lot.
Please tell us how this game is played.
I forget. I forget right now. All of a sudden, I just forget. Oh boy.
That's convenient.
Hallways and Heffalumps.
Oh, that was really
That's a
good,
good
Kate.
one.
Yeah, that was really good.
Yeah, that was a good one.
And that was significantly smarter than any of ours. You might have won the game.
I was about to throw one out with Catacombs, but it's not going to be as good.
Is it Catacombs and Kitty Cats?
Yes, it is.
That's pretty good.
You know me very well.
I love it.
I feel like the officer, like at the beginning of the film and the end of the film, that like gives the warning, basically, like reminds me of the guy from Unsolved Mysteries.
Oh yeah,
And
kind
like
of,
the
sort of.
severity of like, this game will make you crazy.
Yeah,
So
because
watch out.
it's terrible, and you're going to think that you can stab anyone you want.
You can't. Well, apparently you can.
Yeah, in this game you can, or in
And
this movie.
Yeah.
You
Nobody
can.
talks
In
about
this
it ever
world.
again.
But he was just a deadbeat. I actually, for a minute, thought that it was going to turn out that the thug that he stabbed was going to be his brother.
Oh,
That he was like he stabbed.
In the movie,
that it
there's
would
a
turn
lot
out.
of things.
There would have been a lot of
There's, like-
interesting things that they could have done.
Yeah, there's like a lot of stuff. It's like, oh, he's gonna find his brother. Oh, JJ is gonna have this like, he's smart and he's gonna like know how to fix things and like, I don't know. It just goes.
Kate's going to save him
nowhere.
with the power of love.
well, like the movie is just an onslaught of missed opportunities, people not living up to their potential in the movie, all of these different avenues that are unexplained, and that no one that just they just decide never to travel down. I want to know more about the hats. I want to know more about that bird with a man voice. I want to know more about JJ in general, right? I mean, JJ is the easily star of the movie, at least in my...
Yeah. I want to see a movie about JJ and Robbie's mother.
Yeah.
I want to see Robbie's mother's struggle to overcome her addiction and find love and comfort in the arms of JJ, who also overcomes his strange hat addiction.
Yeah, and then it's like, then what else?
They trade addictions.
Yeah, I just.
Yes.
Yeah, there's a lot in this movie.
But then what if JJ and Tom Hanks's mom, or JJ and Robbie's mom, switch addictions?
Oh.
That's
Yeah.
just like one possibility. We could throw out 4,000 possibilities.
How much do you think Tom Hanks got paid?
Not.
Like, do you think the
A
director
fiver.
of this movie, like, looks back and be like, at one point, we paid Tom Hanks, famous Tom Hanks. We had Tom Hanks. We paid him about $150, and we made a crappy movie with Tom Hanks.
Yeah, I wonder if they'd ever apologized to Tom.
I feel like they probably haven't. I think they're like, this was probably, since this was his first starring role, it was probably a good foot in the door for him. And he probably looks back on it. I'm not going to say fondly, because I would hope not. But, wistfully maybe is the word.
I think in the actual real world, I want to know who gave Tom Hanks his second job after, or like the
Yeah.
job after this movie. I'd like to know if it was the Joe versus Volcano person, and they're like, well, here's this schmuck who will do anything. So let's just get him to do this. And then turns out in Joe versus Volcano that he crushed it, and he did an awesome job, and that movie's hilarious. And then he went, take that, Mazes and Monsters. But I don't know.
It's like the casting director is like, wait a minute. You're telling me that we can get the kid from Mazes and Monsters? We got to get this guy.
For $300, let's do it.
Sign him up.
Because we're paying the fake prop volcano $3,000, and it's not even a real
Right.
thing. We will happily pay Tom Hanks, real human, real Tom Hanks, famous Tom Hanks, we call him, $300 to fight a volcano for us.
There was one great moment in this movie that while we were watching it, I had to go back to and pause so that I could take a picture of it and send it to Jordan. Because it was just such an amazing still moment. Very similar to that meme of James Vanderbeek crying in, Dawson's Creek?
Yes.
Yeah.
And I'll send that picture. We'll make sure that picture will be up on the blog. But it is of Tom Hanks struggling to work out a tear, and I mean the boy's about to pull something. It's amazing.
And it's funny because looking at the photo, two things. One, it is now, if you ever contact me by phone, that's the picture that will pop up. but also that you can hear Tom Hanks making the Tom Hanks noise, which it's like easy for me to hear in my head, but to get it to my head to my mouth, it's basically impossible. But
Please try.
It's that Tom. That's not even it. But if you look at it, you know which noise I'm talking about. It's the like nervous, long, sort of like a lower pitched whine. I don't know, like a cat and like a cat meow being played in slow motion. Tom
Hanks, the cat's meow.
See, and that's a cool phrase that you just made up, and you can coin, you can sell it. T-shirts, mugs.
I'll tweet.
I'm really
him.
sad that we like title our episodes off of the name of the movie and not off of something said during the recording. Because if it was, then this episode would be Tom Hanks, the Cat's Meow, 100%, no question.
That's great.
Oh goodness gracious!
But overall, do I think people should watch this movie? Yes.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah,
It's so
think
ridiculously bad. You have to.
yeah. There's a lot of entertainment value out of it. It's not like you said, Trolls 2, The Room, Deathbed, The Bed That Eats. Not like that level of hilariously bad, but it's still very entertainingly confusing, I think is the way that I would put it.
Yeah, I think that's completely fair. And like, I'll say this: if you've watched any of the movies that Daniel just said, and you have yet to watch this one, I think it would be right up your alley. This seems like one of those movies that would play at midnight that would garner a cult following or something.
Yes, I think that is very accurate.
And easiest cosplay ever. You just dress up like Tom Hanks. You wear a tiny members only jacket and very old blue jeans.
Yep, and you tuck that members only jacket into your blue jeans.
Yeah, yeah.
That's a very important part of the look.
Or you can wear any hat you want and just say, "Oh, I'm JJ."
I'm JJ.
For Mazes
Oh,
and
man.
Monsters. Come on.
Come on, I'm JJ. You don't get it? Come on, I got the hat. Come on, I even trained my bird to sound like a full-grown man.
You can go as JJ. I'll go as the bird.
Okay.
Because,
Well, will you please send us pictures of that?
Yeah, we will.
Once
I think
that
we just found
happens.
our Halloween costume. Very cheap for me. I don't know what Lindsay's going to do for a bird costume. But I'm all for it if it's inexpensive.
I'll call the director.
I think
and
the
see
thing-
what she would do.
Okay.
They would do.
To execute the JJ costume properly, you need to have like a large bag with a bunch of changes of hats.
Oh, yeah. And say, well, hold on, just give me 1 sec. And then you leave, you come back, new hat. But you need, what,
Yes.
8 hats? And then you have to change it 14 times
Yes.
over the course
So
of the evening.
I did a mid-evening costume change at a Halloween party once, where I was going specifically as Lawrence Talbot from the 1944 The Wolfman. And so I went as Lawrence Talbot, and then halfway through the night yelled out a couple of lines from the movie and dashed to the bathroom for about 40 minutes while I put on some werewolf costume, like makeup and everything, and came back out, and everyone was like, "The fuck was that, dude?" And it did not go over well, which I was very sad about.
That's funny. When I was in undergrad, I think, for those like 5 years of your life, you have $10 to your name at any given moment. But my parents, I don't know why, but they bought me a gorilla suit, and And it was like, well, thanks very much. So I wore that, but without the mask, the hands, or the feet. And I was like, I'll just go as a mustache. So I was a mustache, and I was walking into a friend's party, and a bunch of drunk dude bros, a few balconies up, as I was walking in, they're like, hey, it's a Yeti. I was like, no, I'm a mustache, actually. Which is like, okay, that was the first mistake, to correct a bunch of drunk 18-year-olds. And they're like, and then they yelled names at me, and they told me I was a Yeti, and I got very scared. But but I was not a Yeti in my defense. So so there.
Oh my goodness! Just the idea of going as a mustache is so brilliant and beautiful.
I felt beautiful when I was wearing that suit. Comfy suit. You're just a giant walking fuzzball. You feel good.
Yeah.
You feel good in that suit.
Probably stay warm too.
I was very warm. I would say I was too warm at a few points, but yeah,
It's
it was
warm being a mustache.
Ain't that the truth, Lindsay?
Say it every day.
Every day. Like the very first thing you say when you wake up.
It's always warm being a mustache.
Oh, it's warm being a mustache. Good morning. Well, I think that's all that we've got.
Yeah.
All right.
I think that's all we got.
I'm actually surprised
This was
Yeah.
we got that much time out of this movie.
Yeah, seriously.
seriously. This definitely we went for longer than I was expecting, which is not at all a complaint. This is, I think, second only to our Top Gun episode with how much time we recorded for.
Because Top Gun actually had a lot of information to go off.
Yeah, we had a lot of stuff to talk about with Top Gun. This one we just went around. We just talked about random stuff, and it was perfect.
Which I think that's if we were to have done a lot of deep diving into this movie, I think that would be unfair. Because I would feel taken advantage of by the movie, because I don't think that's what this movie needs, or that's what this movie wants. Just cursory information, very top level. You're skimming the surface of mediocrity. I think.
Well, I think that's how they created it, right? Like, they didn't go too deep into making this movie, so we can't go too deep into analyzing it.
I do want to say one of the few reviews that I found, and therefore the best review I found, was called it the Reefer Madness of the D&D era.
Called it!
Perfect. Yeah.
You did call it.
How prophetic.
Oh, that's fantastic. Reeds,
Yeah.
where can our listeners find you?
Well, you can guess our home address and just come to our house. Or
Which I've tried like 5 times, and I've been wrong each time.
111 Columbus. No, 112 Central Columbus.
Well, now they know Columbus.
Oh, well, sugar.
We gave you a hint.
All right.
So you can find us online. We have a Twitter and an Instagram at spooky_spouses. Or if you'd like to, for any reason whatsoever, you can send us an email at spookyspousescast@gmail.com.
Perfect. All right. And if you follow our Twitter, then you see a lot of us retweeting and responding to the Spooky Spouses Twitter account, because they are a delight. And if you haven't listened to their podcast, then you need to, because as you can tell from this episode, they're fantastic and very funny. So please check that out.
And thank you guys so much for having us. We feel like we've been invited warmly into your electronic homes, and it's been wonderful. So thank you for having us.
Yes, thank you.
Certainly. Thank you again so much for coming on. As always, you can find us on iTunes, Podbean, Stitcher, YouTube, or wherever you find your fine podcasts.
You can find us on the various social networks, Instagram and Twitter. We are at Subverted Tropes. On Facebook, we are Subverted Tropes Podcast.
You can always send us an email if you feel like it at Subverted Trope, singular, subvertedtropecast@gmail.com.
And every week I put up a blog with our sources and a bunch of random pictures loosely strung together by information from the episode at subvertedtropecast.wordpress.com.
And as always, a huge thank you to Gracie Bolland for our amazing logo. You can find her on YouTube and Instagram at A Modern Unicorn.
Thanks for being our new best friends.
Hey, thanks for being our new best friends.
Yay!
All right, bye everybody.
Bye, guys.
Bye.